Hi, I'm Kelly with citracycles.ca. This is the Bulls 650 EFS3 RSI. It's a full suspension Bosch powered electric mountain bike. It's an incredible value, and you can find the current pricing. You can order online and check out all the detailed specs on our website at citracycles.ca. There you'll find our contact information, so if you have any questions, if there's anything I missed in the video, feel free to reach out to us. If you'd like to come try the bike for yourself, either here in Ladysmith in beautiful Vancouver Island, or have us bring it to you as part of our Try at Home program anywhere on Vancouver Island or the Lower Mainland, you can, again, contact us through our website at citracycles.ca. We do offer free shipping right across Canada, and given what an incredible value this bike is, it's definitely worth checking out. So Bulls uses very descriptive names on their bike. This is, like I said, the Bulls 650 EFS3 RSI. Bulls, of course, is the brand. It's a German company, although the bike itself is assembled in Vietnam, I believe, in order to get it to be that incredible price, and that's not unusual for e-bikes to be assembled in Asia. So, but Bulls is a German brand, lots of innovation, great history. They're relatively new to North America, but they're well established in Europe. 650 refers to the tire size, so these are 27.5 tires, and that is a little bit smaller than the 29-inch, but bigger than the 26-inch, and so it kind of is a nice compromise size. You get the better rolling features of the larger size compared to the 26, so you're able to roll over obstacles and gaps and roots and things like that a little bit better, but it also still gives you a lot of agility that sometimes you lose with the 29-inch tires. So it's a nice in-between size, and these are the Schwalbe Rocket Ron. So they do have the Evo, and they have the light skin puncture resistance. They are the Paystar 3 compound. Nice and grippy tires, but still fairly fast, as implied by the name. The Rocket Ron have a fairly low rolling resistance for this type of tire, but still some really great knobs here to dig into mud. So it's the Bulls 650 is referring to the tire size. E refers to the fact that this is a Bosch powered e-bike with the Bosch CX. It's an electric bike. FS refers to the fact that this is a full suspension. So you can see up front here we've got the RockShox Reba. We've got 120 millimeters of travel, and it is an air fork, of course, so you can pop the top cap off here, use a shock pump to adjust the air according to your weight and according to your riding preferences. And they do, of course, have a ring here that you can use to set to the adjustments, and a little guide as well, which is kind of cool to have. And of course, down on the bottom here we do have rebound adjustment. This is a through axle, as you can see. It's not a dropout, so this axle, the only way to remove the wheel is to open up the lever here and unscrew the axle so that it comes all the way out, and then your wheel will drop out. So that also, you know, as a safety thing, your wheel's not going to come out very easily, but it also really stiffens up the front end and gives you a lot of stability for you know, riding in aggressive situations. And on the back here we have the RockShox Monarch RT, and again we have some rebound adjustments, and we can lock the fork or open it up, and it is also an air fork, and there's a guide on here as well. So that's what the FS is referring to, the fact that it's a full suspension bike with 120 millimeters of travel. So let's see, Bulls 650 EFS3. So the 3 refers to the fact that this is their top end in terms of the specs and the quality of the components that they've used on the bike. So for example, back here we've got an 11-speed cassette with a massive climbing gear here. So if you've got lots of hills, steep hills, then it's great to go with the 3, so to speak, because you get that 11-speed cassette. Back here you also get the Shimano Dior XT with the Shadow Plus, so we've got the clutch here to tighten up the chain. That reduces the chain slap, makes your shifts a little snappier, and that's great for trail riding. We also go with the Shimano Dior brakes here. You can see we've got 180 millimeter rotors. These are hydraulic disc brakes, which of course is very important on an electric mountain bike. you are going to be going quite a bit faster, and the bike is heavier, so you do want to be able to have a lot of confidence in stopping. And so with the hydraulic fluid, you're not relying on the mechanical strength of your fingers. You don't have a cable in here that can rust, break, stretch, cause things to go out of alignment. With the hydraulic fluid, you can literally stop this bike with one finger on each brake lever. And these are one finger, maybe 1.5, 2 finger brake levers. I should mention these are IceTech compatible brakes as well. So you can change out the brake pads that are included with some IceTech pads, which basically have fins on them to help with cooling. So if you have really long descents where you find that your brake pads and rotors are heating up, that IceTech pad will help dissipate the heat a little bit more for you. So with the 3, like I said, you are getting the top end specs. You're getting the 11 speed, you're getting the Shimano Dior XT, you're getting the nice hydraulic disc brakes. Trying to think of what other features they upgrade on that with the 3. It's definitely a really nice fork as well with the RockShox Reba and the Monarch RT. So Bull's 650E FS3 RSI. The RSI, I believe, is basically telling you that this is a Bosch powered bike. So Bulls does have some bikes that have the Broza system and also the Shimano steps. This is the Bosch Performance Line CX. The CX tells you it's Bosch's top end, so this gives you the most amount of torque. It really is an incredible amount of torque. It's very responsive, so it's very quick to respond. You basically just need to put some pressure on the pedals, and you'll immediately get the assistance from the drive unit. It also has the e-mountain bike mode, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But while I'm down here, let me just also point out we've got a really nice integrated aluminum bash guard here to help protect the motor. And on the other side, you'll notice that we do have a bit of a pulley system here to keep the tension on the chain and keep the chain high here, because you can see the sprocket down here. We do have a aluminum bash guard on for the chain here, which is really nice, quite big. It's really going to protect your chain, and we've got some nice Suntour SR crank arms on here. I guess I might as well talk about the pedals while I'm down here. These are Wellgo pedals. They are the LUC4. Yeah, they're adequate pedals. Pedals are a tricky thing for bike companies, and I always tell people, you know, when you're buying a bike, don't worry if the saddle's uncomfortable, because that's easy to change. And actually, this isn't a bad saddle. It is a Bulls branded saddle. I wonder if it's Selle Royale. I think it might be. Fairly comfortable for a mountain bike saddle, but of course you could change that. Don't worry about the grips. You can always change the grips, but hey, look at that. These are actually ergon, which are great quality grips, very comfortable, and they are locking. So they're not going to turn on you while you're riding, which is really important. So of course you could change the grips. I'm not sure that you would. They're fantastic. You might change the saddle, and almost everybody changes the pedals. It's hard for a bike manufacturer because everybody has personal preferences when it comes to pedals. So Bulls is still including pedals. Some of them aren't including pedals anymore. If it were me, I would change these out to a wider platform pedals with removable pins, but certainly to get you started, they're definitely adequate. Let me go back to the Bosch system here. Got sidetracked a bit there. So we do have the pulley system in order to keep the chain elevated above the chainstay here and lining up correctly with the drive unit here. You will notice on some of Bull's newer bikes, they've tilted the motor up to avoid the need to have this pulley system here. And that's one of the reasons, there's really two reasons why this bike is such an incredible value right now. One is because it does use this older style placement of the drive unit, which necessitates the use of the pulley system here. And the other is that these are 2.35 inch wide tires, which you know, up until recently was really the standard for mountain bike tires. But now we're seeing most of Bull's new bikes have the 27.5 plus. So you could check out my video review of the 650 Plus EFS3, which is a very similar bike to this, but with the plus size tires and a little bit more travel and a lot more expensive. What's really attractive to this bike right now is the incredible price that it's at while they're still available. And part of that is because I mean, this is still Bosch's latest drive system. It's not an older drive system. It's just simply the motor placement requires them to add this pulley system. They've done a nice job. They've put an integrated slap guard here on the chainstay protector, so that if you do get some slapping with the chain, it's not going to damage the chainstay. It'll keep that nice and clean. So that's really nice to see. They've really paid attention to a lot of the details in putting together this bike, which is nice. So let me talk about the Bosch system and how that works, and then we'll go for a ride test. And just before I get into the Bosch system, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. No, I don't think so. They do have a remote lockout here for the front fork, which is nice. We have a visual indicator for your gears, which some people really like to have, so you know what gear you're in. The shifters are bi-directional for this one here, which is great. They've got textured pattern on it, different textured on each lever. Makes it really easy for shifting. You know, it's a nice setup on the cockpit here. I mentioned the grips already, and the wiring is integrated into the frame. You can see it's running through the frame here. So it's really clean, very nice looking bike, quite attractive, and of course a lot of fun to ride. So I'm going to take it for a ride test. Let me talk a little bit about what this Bosch system is all about if you're not familiar with it. If you've watched my other videos, you've probably heard me talk about the Bosch system a lot. You've probably caught on that it is one of my favorite drive systems. I really think it is one of the best available on the market. But if you've heard all this before, you could skip ahead to the ride test. There's a number of things I like about the Bosch system. Being a mid-drive, and all mid-drives share these characteristics, the weight is more centered on the bike, and so when you're riding this aggressively on trails, it really handles very well because your weight is low and centered, which is great to see. A mid-drive does turn the chain rather than a hub drive, which turns the wheel. There's a big advantage to that. One is that it feels more natural. It's able to be more responsive, but perhaps most importantly is it's leveraging the mechanical advantage of your gears. So when you change to that really big climbing gear, that is having an impact on the motor. It's like the transmission in your vehicle, and so that really helps you climb the hills. And of course the Bosch system has a lot of torque, and torque is what you need to climb hills. A lot of times people ask about the wattage rating of the motor. It really isn't that useful to know. What you really want to know is how much torque does it have, because what you want to know is, can you get up the hill? With the Bosch CX system, you can definitely get up the hill. The other great thing about the Bosch system is it detects your torque, so that is how hard you're pedaling, your cadence, how quickly your legs are moving, and how fast the bike is moving 1,000 times per second. So it's essentially reading your mind. It knows what you're doing, and Bosch has recently extended that kind of what I refer to as mind reading capabilities with the new CX mode. So what that means is when I power the bike on here, you can see we're off. On the remote here, I can use the plus and minus, which is really easy to access while I'm riding. And I can move that up to Eco, which is going to give me 50% of my input power. So most people don't use Eco a lot unless you want a really extended range. I can press the plus here again to go up to Tour, which is what a lot of people use. It gives you 120% of your input power. And when I press plus again, watch down here where it says clock, you'll notice that it flashes e-mtb. So that's the new e-mountain bike mode. And what that does is it dynamically adjusts for you all the way between Tour and up to Turbo, which is the maximum. And basically, again, it's reading your mind. It tends to be fairly focused on torque. So if you pedal really hard because you've got a hill climbing up, it's going to automatically move you up into Turbo. Now, the display won't change. The display will always say Sport, and it flashes momentarily e-mtb. But you will feel the power. It's really neat. You'll notice that you really hammer on the pedals, you get full power to climb up the hill. You're back at the top of the hill and you're just cruising along, it automatically moves you back down to Tour to help preserve the battery life. So it's a really neat automatic mode. Now you don't have to use that. You can manually override it with the plus and minus to go up into Turbo or down into Tour. But having that ability to Have the bike dynamically adjust it for you is great, especially on trails where you're really focused on what's coming up, choosing the right line. The last thing you want to be thinking about is, am I in the right level of assistance? The classic example I use is, see a hill coming up, put it into turbo, climb up the hill, fly up the hill, and forget that it's in turbo. And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, wow, I'm really going really fast. I got to be a little bit more careful on this trail. What's going on? Oh, right, I left it in turbo and I need to move it down. So having that integrated e-mtb mode is fantastic, and I really like that. This bike does have the Intuvia display. As you can see here, this display is removable and it operates off the bike, so you can still check all of your trip stats while it's off the bike. You can permanently mount it to the bike if you wish. I always like having it removable so I can take it with me if I leave the bike outside somewhere. Some of the newer bikes are coming with the Purion display, which integrates the display and the control panel in one on the side. It's a little bit more compact. It isn't removable, and one of the big downsides with the Purion for some people is the fact that you can't charge your cell phone or lights or anything else through the Purion display. With the Intuvia display, there is a USB flap on the side here, and you can actually get a Bosch cable. It's a micro USB cable, A to B. A little bit hard to find, but we have them in stock, and that would allow you to actually top up the charge on your cell phone or GPS or something like that. So that's kind of handy to have. The Intuvia display does give you lots of information. So at the top of the display here, there we go, you can see the battery level of assistance, your current speed. Down here we have a trip computer. So right now it's the clock. I can either press the I on the display, and that's useful when the display is off the bike, but while you're riding, you probably press the I over here on the remote. That's going to cycle through all the information. So on the bottom here you can see my maximum speed, my average speed, the trip time, the range. So this is awesome. This is dynamically calculated based on the last 4 or 5 kilometers that you've ridden, and is also dependent on the mode you're in. So in Eco, you can see I could do 114 kilometers more. If I move that up to Tour, you can see it drops quite a bit to 58 kilometers. Up to e-mtb mode is 43, and up to Sport drops that to 36 kilometers. So that's really handy. Some people don't like the fact that there's only 5 bars on the battery indicator, but it's made up for the fact that it's going to tell you exactly how much further you can go. So when you combine that with your trip counter, so it tells you there's the odometer total distance on the bike and my trip distance, then you know how far you've come and how much further you can go based on that range estimator, and it gives you an idea of when you need to turn around and head back. So I love having that ability to really see how much further you can go with the Intuvia display. This particular bike has the Bosch Power Pack 400. It's available either with the 400 or the 500. The 400, of course, brings the price down. The 500 gives you 25% more range. Now, this is a great example of one of the benefits of the Bosch system. So Bosch has 2 service centers in Canada, which is great. I can easily get parts and service from them. The other great thing that Bosch really focuses on is parts availability in the long term. So they're really focused on saying, look, you buy this bike now, but many years from now, you're still going to want to ride that bike. And so it's important for you to still be able to get the parts. So when they came out with the Bosch Power Pack 500, they actually made it backwards compatible. It looks identical to this, but of course it says 500 on it, and it gives you 25% more range. So they managed to fit 25% more power in the same format. And so that means if you had bought this bike 5 years ago, well, it wasn't available 5 years ago, but a similar bike 5 years ago, and you wanted to get the newest battery, you can do that. You could buy the Power Pack 500, put it on, and it works. And that's really one of the great things about the Bosch system. This is a Bosch specific battery. Even though it says Bulls on it, it's not a Bulls battery. There's another benefit to that. You'll notice that other Brose, Shimano systems allow the bike manufacturer to design their own battery to integrate it into the frame so that it doesn't look like an e-bike. The challenge with that is now you're reliant on that bike manufacturer to have that battery format in the future. So 5 years from now you need a spare battery. you have to hope that that bike manufacturer is still making available that battery in that format that fit into that frame. With a standard Bosch battery like this, you know that Bosch is always going to have this battery available, and so you know that you're not relying on Bulls or whoever the brand, the bike manufacturer is. Bosch has got you. They've got this battery, and they're going to make sure that it's available in the future. So there's a lot of benefits to the Bosch system. So yeah, it's not maybe as you can tell it's an e-bike. You've got the drive system down here, you've got the battery there. Some of the other bikes that integrate the battery into the frame do look a little bit more integrated. But, you know, honestly, people are going to know you're on an e-bike when you pass them climbing up the hill with a big smile on your face. And that's really one of the great things about this bike, is it's so much fun. It's agile, it's responsive. You can have as much fun climbing up the hills as you do going down. And I would recommend, if you haven't done it already, go to YouTube, check out Bosch's uphill flow videos. They're a lot more slick than the video review I'm going to take you on. But it really gives you a great idea of what you can do with a bike like this. So hopefully I've remembered everything. If I've forgotten to point something out, feel free to contact me over at citruscycles.ca. I'm going to take you on a ride test now. If you want to come try the bike for yourself, all the contact details are at citruscycles.ca. So we'll start out the ride test on pavement to get to the trails. And as a bike for riding on pavement, it wouldn't be bad. These tires aren't actually that noisy for being knobby like they are. Full suspension makes it really nice and comfortable. It'd be a little bit hard to add a permanent rack. You could put a seat post mounted rack on the bike and then add some lights, and you'd have a commuter bike that is fully trail capable. You've got the remote lockout here on the suspension, so you could actually lock out the front fork if you wanted to as well. Shifts are really nice and smooth, you know, which is what you'd expect from the Dior XT. Brakes have lots of modulation in them, very responsive, which is great. Climbing hills is no problem, of course, with Bosch CX drive. You get lots of power, very responsive. Alright, I'll turn the camera off and start it again once we get on some nice trails. Okay, I'll do a quick hill climb test here for you. It's a very steep hill. Hopefully my GPS is working and you'll be able to see the lower right hand of the video, the gradient of the hill. It's definitely one of the steeper hills. So I've got it in turbo. And we'll see if I need the easiest gear or not on this bike. Well, so far no problem. I'm not sure if you can see in the video on the display here, the Bosch system does have not only shift detection, but shift recommendations. Oh yeah, no, I didn't even have, I'm at the top of the hill and didn't even have to go into my biggest gear there for climbing the hill. So it's very impressive, managed to keep a speed of about 15 kilometers an hour. So anyway, sorry, as I was saying, it has both shift detection and shift recommendations. So the shift recommendations, it will actually show on the display an up or a down arrow when it thinks that you should shift to a different gear to help both yourself and the motor be more efficient. So that's really handy to have. And it also has shift detection. So that means when you shift, it momentarily cuts power to the drive unit, and it's very momentary, you won't notice it, for the shift, so that there's less strain on your drivetrain when you're shifting. And you know, if you've ever shifted under load, you know, trying to do multiple shifts, climbing a hill, pedaling really hard, you kind of hear that crunching. It's not great for your drivetrain, and so that's why Bosch, you know, really tries to prolong the life of your chain, your cassette and derailleur by cutting the power momentarily when you shift. And that's fairly unique to Bosch. Not sure that there's any other mid-drives on the market right now that have that shift detection. You'd have to go with a system with the electronic shifting, really, to see that sort of thing. Alright, I'm going to head onto the trail right now, and this is a multi-use trail. It's not a mountain bike specific trail, so I'll try to keep my speed down to watch for pedestrians. Don't have any fenders on right now, so hopefully the trail's fairly dry. There's a number of different fender options available, especially these narrower 2.35, 27.5 tires. Lots of different options for removable fenders. Hello. So it can be a little bit hazardous riding with these thick leaves. Not only are they wet, do they get slippery, but they also tend to hide obstacles from underneath. So it is nice having the full suspension, knowing that if I take a root or a rock head on, I'm not going to be thrown off my bike. Some nice modulation in the brakes there. It's easy to control your descents. Bypass the stairs and try not to fall off the cliff at the same time. There we go. It seems like I picked up some leaves here. Now we can check and see if there's any salmon running in the creek today. I think we're probably the end of the salmon run. Okay, and now for the climb, which is where you'll really see the benefits of having the Bosch system. Just helps you fly right up the hills and have as much fun going up as it is coming down. So you can see you can really fly up any hill you need. The full suspension, you're going to be able to tackle any technical terrain on a hill or on the trail, sorry, and these 26.5 or 27.5 inch tires. You get lots of ability to roll over routes while still having a fun, agile ride. So if you have any questions or for more information, head on over to our website at citruscycles.ca.